By default, Python only gives you a small set of built-in tools like sum, len, and print. These tools are useful, but they only take you so far. They won't let you draw a chart, analyze a huge spreadsheet, or pull live data from the web. And yet, Python is famous for powering through these tasks easily. So where does that power come from? Much of Python's power comes from the work of programmers like yourself. Over the years, thousands of them have written and shared code with the community. To make their functions easy to share, programmers have bundled them into collections, called Python libraries. The name library is quite appropriate. Just like a physical library is filled with books organized into sections like nonfiction, mystery, and history, a Python library is filled with functions organized into modules. For example, consider the standard library, one of the most important libraries in Python. The library is divided into more than 200 modules, including classics like the random, math, and statistics modules. In turn, each of these modules holds many functions. For example, the random module contains the randint function, which picks a random integer between two numbers. And randint is just one of the random module's many functions. There's also choice, which picks a random item from a list, and so on. Beyond the random module, the math module has functions to find a number's square root, raise a number to a power, and more. In total, the standard library contains thousands of functions. So much power right at our fingertips. Well, almost. Just like a book, a Python function has to be checked out of its library before we can use it. If we skip that checkout and just try to use a function, like randint, we get an error. To check out the function from the random module, we import randint. Once the randint function is checked out, we can use it in the rest of our code. Running our program again, there's no error. Python picked a number between 1 and 6. Now, that's a neat little function we could use to build a dice game. One import line was all it took to check randint out of the library. And a similar line could be used to import any function in the standard library. However, importing randint was only that easy because we already knew it lives in the random module. With hundreds of modules in the standard library, it's impossible to remember where every function is located. As a result, it's often hard to tell whether the tool we need already exists, or whether we'd have to write it ourselves. That's an issue we may run into as we keep building our dice game. For example, say we want to introduce players into our game, and assign them a random turn order. Is there a function in the standard library that can do that? And if so, where is it located? We can answer both questions by going to one place, Python's official documentation known as the docs. The docs live on a website, and on that website we can find information on everything in the standard library. To find the docs, we open our browser and do a Google search. Clicking on the first result, we land on a web page that links to every module in the standard library. Randomizing the items in a list sounds like a job for the random module. To find that module, we can scroll through the list. There it is, the random module. So let's open the module's documentation page and see if the tool we need is listed there. Skimming through, one function jumps out, shuffle. According to the documentation, that function rearranges the items of a list into a random order. That's exactly what we need. So let's switch back to our code and import that function. From here, let's use the shuffle function to rearrange our list of names into a random order. Running the code, we get our list of names back in a new order. And if we run the code again, the names usually come back in a different order. So we got the job done, but finding the right tool took a lot of manual digging. And that's despite being able to guess that the tool we needed was in the random module. We won't always be that lucky. For example, in our dice game, let's say we want to visualize the number of wins each player has using a chart. Can the random, math, or statistics modules help us here? None of those sound like places graphing functions would live. Since we're not sure where to start, let's go back to the standard library docs. If we try searching for a chart module, nothing useful turns up. And if we kept digging, we'd just be wasting our time. Charting tools aren't part of the standard library. But creating a chart is such a common need that the Python community has built several libraries for it. To find which community library is best for our needs, we could head to Google and search for it. But in 2026, that's often not the most efficient way. Instead, we can usually get a more direct answer by asking an AI assistant like Claude. In plain English, let's ask Claude which library we should use to draw a chart. Claude's answer suggests that matplotlib is the popular choice for creating charts in Python, so we'll go with that. But before we can put matplotlib to work, we have to get it onto our machine. Matplotlib is our first external library, built by the community. It doesn't come packaged with Python the same way that the randint and shuffle functions do. As a result, trying to import the library without installing it first gives us an error. Before we import an external library, we need to download it from the internet and install it. This process is handled by Python's package manager, pip. To download matplotlib, pip turns to one giant catalog, the Python package index, or PyPI. We can browse the PyPI catalog ourselves by going to its website. And if you want to explore the website on your own, we left a link in the description. PyPI is where hundreds of thousands of packages live, including matplotlib. Searching for matplotlib and clicking the link brings us to its page. This page provides some information about the package, as well as a link to its documentation. And back at the top of the page, we can find the pip command we'll use to install matplotlib on our machine. So let's head back to our notebook to do that. Since we're working in a notebook, in a new code cell, we can run the pip command. But if we install matplotlib like this, we need an exclamation point at the beginning of the line. That exclamation point tells the notebook to run this line as a terminal command, not as Python code. If you were using a regular .py file instead of a notebook, you'd install matplotlib by going to the terminal and writing pip install matplotlib. Running the cell, pip gets to work. It finds matplotlib online, downloads it, and adds it to our Python installation. Beyond installing libraries, pip can upgrade and remove them too. If you want to learn more about pip, we're working on a video, and the link will be in the description once it's ready. Now that matplotlib is installed on our computer, any program we write can import it. We won't need to run this command again in the future, so we can delete the cell from our notebook. Running the import cell again, the error goes away, which means our program now recognizes that matplotlib is installed. With the import error gone, visualizing the player wins is just a few function calls away. To figure out which functions we need, PyPI doesn't offer much help. The role of PyPI is simply to catalog available libraries. But the page does provide a link to matplotlib's own documentation website. Here, we'll find a lot more information. For example, we can navigate to the reference section to see all the available modules. That is a lot of options. Determining exactly which ones we need could turn into an afternoon's project. To speed that process up, let's go back to Claude and ask which functions and modules to use. After thinking a bit, Claude points us to two functions in matplotlib's pyplot module: bar, to draw the chart, and show, to display it. So, back in our code, we'll need to import both of those functions. Let's start with the bar function. The intuitive way to import the bar function might be to use the same syntax as we did with the randint function. Simply write from pyplot import bar. But if we try to run the cell, we get an error. The message says there's no module named pyplot. That's strange, since we definitely installed matplotlib. Why could Python find the random module earlier, but not the pyplot module now? The error type gives us a clue. Module not found means Python went looking for the module and came back empty-handed. To understand why, let's discuss what happens when we request a module. When running an import statement, Python searches for the module in the library directory of our Python installation. Every Python module, whether it's part of the standard library or an external library, is a real file on our computer. So to import a module, Python has to first find its file. Many standard library modules, like random and statistics, sit at the top level of that structure. Because they are at the top level, Python can find them by name alone. Matplotlib, though, is a folder with nested module files, including pyplot. Because of this structure, we can't just name the module we want to import from. We have to specify exactly where it lives. We do this by writing the library name, followed by a dot, and then the module name. Similarly, we can also import the show function. Running the code, we no longer get an error, so we've properly imported both functions. Now, we can put them to work. To create the chart, we call bar, passing in both lists as arguments. The first list, players, will label the bars along the bottom of the chart. The second list, wins, will set each bar's height. To display the chart, we'll call show. Since its only job is to display what we've just drawn, show needs no arguments. Running the code, we get a bar chart that shows the number of wins each player has. Back at the top of our cell, though, our imports are starting to stack up. Bar and show each take a separate import line. For two functions, that's not a huge cost. But if we wanted to use more functions from pyplot, we'd need to add more lines at the top of our program, each starting with the same from matplotlib.pyplot import. That's a lot of repetition. To reduce the boilerplate code and keep our program leaner, we can import several functions on a single line. After the import keyword, we list all the functions we want, separated by a comma. Then, if we want to import more functions from the same module, we add them to the end of the line, separated with a comma. For example, if we wanted to add a title and a label to the y-axis, we could add both of those functions at the end of the import line. We can then use these functions in our code after the bar call. Both take a string as an argument. Running the code, our chart now has a title, and its y-axis is labeled. That's great, but we could add an almost endless number of customizations to our chart. Grid lines, a legend, a label for the other axis. Each of these features would require importing a new function, which would make our import line harder and harder to read. To avoid listing all the functions we want individually, we can instead import everything in the pyplot module at once. But when we import the whole module instead of individual functions, we can no longer call the functions the same way. Indeed, if we try running our code in a fresh notebook, we get an error. The reason is that our updated import line brought in all those functions under a single name. To use a specific function out of all the ones we imported, we need to specify its full path. For example, to use bar, we need to add matplotlib.pyplot as a prefix. We must do the same for all the other functions as well. Running the code, we get our chart back. But writing out matplotlib.pyplot every time we reach for one of its functions is tedious. To solve the tedium, Python lets us define a shorter nickname for the module, using the as keyword. The nickname convention for pyplot is PLT, but you can use any name you want. Once that nickname is defined, we can use it to call any function in the pyplot module. Using that nickname makes the code easier to read. And when we run the code, we still get our chart. Awesome! By finding, installing, and importing matplotlib, we pulled an entire charting library into our own program, all in just a few lines of code. The same steps work for every library the Python community has shared. Working with a giant spreadsheet of data? The pandas library is your friend. Pulling live data from a website? The requests library can help there. Other libraries let us edit images, build games, or even run scientific simulations. Whatever the task, chances are a library already exists for the job. That is where Python's real power comes from. If you'd like to practice finding, installing, and importing some of Python's other popular libraries, check out the exercises linked in the description. And if you're interested in learning how to build your own modules and libraries, let us know in the comments. We might make a video on it. We're working on lots more Python explainer videos like this one, so be sure to subscribe so that you don't miss out. If you have any questions or topics that you'd like to learn more about, let us know in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks for watching!